And someone asked me, are you Indian? This is a question that I often get. Sometimes I would get this question daily. The short answer is yes, I'm Indian. The long answer is it's complicated. So slavery was abolished in the Caribbean in 1835. After slavery was abolished, the Europeans wanted new laborers, and they decided to go to other countries instead of utilizing the former slaves that they had and giving them fair wages. And they did this under the system called indentureship. Now, indentureship looked different in many different places, and it also varied. Indentureship, when it was intended for Europeans to come to the Americas, looked very different than indentureship when it came to folks from Asian countries into the Caribbean. So in 1838, the first ship left India and went to Guyana. Guyana is the country in South America. At that time, the country was referred to as British Guyana. So when that first boat went, it went from Calcutta port to Guyana, which is a very far journey. This journey took months. They used the former slave ships to transport people from India, from the subcontinent, to South America. And you might be asking, South America is not in the Caribbean. You're correct. South America is not the Caribbean, but it has Caribbean culture. And so because of the Caribbean culture, Indo-Caribbeans in Guyana identify as being Indo-Caribbean, even though we're not technically an island. We are on the continent of South America. We are considered Caribbean through our culture, our language, our customs, our tradition. So my parents, both of them, were born in Guyana. So when they came to the United States, they identify as being Guyanese. Indo-Caribbean is kind of an old term that's kind of making a re-emergence. And now you find like a younger generation of folks saying it, like Gen X, Gen Y, identifying as being Indo-Caribbean. However, when these Guyanese people were in Guyana and they're of Indian origin, people didn't really ask them like, what are you? Because it was like kind of clear, like they're Indian. There's also other ethnic groups, obviously, in Guyana. There's Native American, there's Chinese, there's Indian, there's Black, and there was a group of white people, European descent, mostly from Portugal. Two dominant groups currently in Guyana are Black and Indian. And there are, of course, people who were mixed of like different groups. Came on ships. We created these new families on the boats, and they refer to each other as Jahaji Bai, Jahaji Behen, ship brother, ship sister. They forged these new ties in the countries that they moved to, and they made new families. My race, I consider to be Asian Indian. My parents' nationality is Guyanese. I was born in the States, so my nationality is American. Some people don't want to identify as certain things, and you just have to respect that person. Like, that's where they are in their life at that time, and that's what they feel comfortable with. And you shouldn't like say, well, you are this. If someone doesn't want to identify as X, you should not throw it upon them. And on the same note, if someone wants to identify as X, you should not tell them they are not X. So if I'm comfortable with just identifying as Indian and not saying Indo-Caribbean or saying Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese or whatever, and I just want to identify as Indian, someone else doesn't have the right to tell me like, no, you're not Indian. Because if I wanted to, I could do a DNA test and prove my genetics is Indian. So speaking a language from India is not the only qualifying character trait that makes you an Indian. Some people might feel this is the case. I'm saying as a race, if one feels comfortable, they should be able to identify as they please. If I was mixed and I wanted to be identified as biracial XYZ, then I should be able to do that. If I was biracial, but I only wanted to identify as one side of that, then that should be my prerogative as well. So don't tell anybody how they should identify, and don't tell anybody if they choose to identify some way that they are not that thing. That is inappropriate. Don't be inappropriate. I decided to make this video because Indian Arrival Day is coming up on May 5th. And that was the first day that Indians came to Guyana. And for the most part, a lot of Caribbean countries have Indian Arrival Day celebrations. Not everybody sees this moment as something that we should celebrate, but everybody can definitely agree it's something to commemorate. The way that Indians left the subcontinent and went to the Caribbean, a lot of people were lied, tricked, coerced. Lots of women were kidnapped, so they didn't have all the information before making an informed decision before they decided to sign up 7-year contracts and go and leave everyone they knew and everything, like their home, and leaving their land and going to some other land they knew nothing about. So that's why not everybody celebrates Indian Arrival Day as a celebratory event, but maybe more like a commemoration. Like we identify, we acknowledge that this happened in this time and this month, and this time we could kind of reflect about what our ancestors went through. We left India, and India had a lot of droughts. And this is one of the reasons that kind of pushed Indians to leave. There was push forces that made that some people made those decisions based on push and pulls of migration. And so when you think about it, your people, all our people come from the land. So I feel like whenever I'm gardening, there are moments where I'm just oh my God, I'm planting flowers. I'm doing this nice, activity. And whereas our ancestors were doing very hard, grueling labor. And some of our ancestors were paid, some of our ancestors weren't paid. And it just kind of makes you reflect sometimes on these little things that we do and we really take for granted, the people that came before us and all the sacrifices and all the really tough decisions they had to do and make in order for us to have the lives that we have. So on this Indian Arrival Day, I just want to share a little bit about my identity, and I love it. I love it all. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the accent. I love the heat and the sun. When my baby grows up, and I want him to know the culture. I want him to know the people, the food, the smells, the music, the customs, the religions. I am Muslim, my husband is not, and so I want my son to know both things that he likes from the culture, and then things that he doesn't like from the culture he doesn't have to participate in. But as a parent, I want to just be able to expose him as much as I possibly can into things that I wasn't exposed to. I wasn't exposed to musical instruments or singing when I was really young. Know your history, know your roots, know the struggles that your people went through, because that would really make you appreciate, today and every day just a little bit more if you sometimes just reflect on what your people went through. And just because someone has a PhD or they might be from a country, they are not the ambassador of knowledge about everything. And so some people don't know what they don't know, and they don't want to acknowledge that, and they want to sometimes bring people down. And one of the most personal ways to bring someone down is to tell someone what they know is not true. What they know in their heart of hearts is not true. What they know about their identity, about their people, about their customs, about their religion, about their language is not true. And that could be very triggering. And I know some people don't like identifying as Indian because of because of the negativity that they receive from other Indians who are maybe first generation or second generation from India, We are not we're not first or second generation from India. I'm 5 generations away from India, and I never pretend to be first or second generation. The fact that we have all the culture and the customs that we do, and we're 5 generations away. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to learn more about Indo-Caribbeans, Indo-Guyanese, I'm going to share a ton of resources below, along with some information about indentureship, some of my favorite books. If you found any of the information intriguing, or if you have any questions, or maybe I misspoke on something, feel free to share those comments, and please be respectful always. Thanks.